Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Neander. Yeah, loving that new theme music. If you don't recognize it, that is Fish, of course. If you know me, you know it's Fish. And it's 2001, I think, maybe officially named Also Sprach Zarathustra. But yeah, man, one of my favorites. Love that groove. All right, Tuesday morning, early Tuesday morning here for the GOAT. Up and at 'em. Pretty early today for a waiver wire show. Not too much info we're waiting on. There's not too much news we're waiting on that's going to determine the outcome of this waiver wire show as far as our rankings. The injuries that are outstanding, kind of are what they are and aren't going to impact anybody I'm looking at picking up, quite honestly, which I know sounds a little bit maybe, counterintuitive, but there just aren't. There aren't any injuries that are impacting my decisions right now, so we've got it all ready to go for you. All right, before we get to the waiver wire stuff, we're going to go ahead and finish up our review of the weekend's actions, including last night's game, Minnesota taking care of business, against Chicago. Still trying to wake up here, as you can tell. But yeah, Minnesota, big win, needed that win. I think that's 3 wins in a row now after their bye week, maybe. But they're, 4 or 5, looking good, playing better, using their weapons, running the ball a lot. And, Chicago's bad. They started 5-1, and obviously it's been, nothing but downhill since. And they looked bad again last night. No offensive scores on the night, or no offensive touchdowns, and just not a great game for the Bears. So, as far as news and notes for the day, again, not much has come out so far. It is pretty early. We do know that Drew Brees, I think they said it was 5 fractured or cracked ribs and a punctured lung. Pretty wild, man. Pretty wild. Didn't expect anything like that kind of news. So, of course, we will talk about Jameis Winston on the waiver wire show a little bit later. So just to give you a heads up there, you will hear a little bit about that situation. Of course, when we go over the Saints game, we'll talk about it again, and then a lot in the preview show in the next upcoming few days. So not much else other than the Breeze news, honestly. Just waiting to hear from everybody else, and we're going to roll ahead with what we've got. So let's jump into last night's game here, and then we'll backtrack to Sunday. As I mentioned, the Vikings on the road win 19-13, move to 4-5. The Bears drop to 5-5, and the North, Green Bay rules the roost here. But these teams are fighting. There's a 7th playoff spot available this year, and you never know. It could come out of the North. It's not coming out of the East. We know that. So you can fight. Either of these teams can be over 500. We'll see what happens. They're both heading in different directions right now. Kirk Cousins snuck into, I believe, the top 12 on the week here. Looks like, he's the number 11 quarterback. So, it wasn't a great game, but 292 yards through the air, a couple of touchdowns and a pick. Did what he had to do. Again, number 11 quarterback on the week. So if you streamed him, that was a W. Dalvin Cook ran the ball 30 times. For the most part, was pretty bottled up. 96 yards on those 30 carries. Only 3.2 yards a carry, which is very low compared to what we've been used to from him lately. Alexander Madison was not involved in the running game. Dalvin Cook did add a few points through the air, 4 catches, 16 yards, but those 5.5 points, you'll take them in a week where he didn't score 30 or 40 points. You need those extra points. So Dalvin Cook, again, not a great week. At one point I looked up and I was like, man, he's really been bottled up. And boom, there he goes, shooting down the sideline, right through the hole, and boom, called back, holding. And now I think that was really the only time he got loose on the game. So, unfortunate there, but at least it was still a 15-point game for Dalvin Cook. And you're going forward expecting big things. Justin Jefferson, the target leader, the everything leader here for the Minnesota Vikings. 10 targets, caught 8 balls for 135 yards. Wound up as the number 11 PPR wide receiver on the week. Adam Thielen, not far behind as the number 13. He went a different route there. He caught 4 of 7 balls for only 43 yards, but both touchdowns that went through the air went to Adam Thielen. And, more than a Thielen, baby. He was feeling good about it. So, yeah, you got what you needed out of Adam Thielen as well. Number 11, number 13. I said to play both those guys, and there you go. I do want to bring up Kyle Rudolph because I did already bring up Kyle Rudolph. At the end of the show yesterday, I mentioned that Irv Smith appears to be out, and now Kyle Rudolph could certainly be a decent play this week. He was the number 12 tight end on the week. Caught 4 or 5 balls for 63 yards, lost a fumble, so he actually would have been the number 7 tight end on the week had he not lost that fumble, but you know, that's a different timeline we're talking about. So, 8.3 points gets you into the top 12 at tight end this week. So there you go, Kyle Rudolph. Congrats, ladies and gents. No Chicago Bears made it into the top ranges here. Nick Foles, 106 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. He did get knocked out of the game, but that was at the very, very end of the game. It was just an awful game. They could not get the ball moving. Cordero Patterson was the only running back that got really any work at all. 12 carries, 30 yards, caught both his targets for 19 yards. So, if you're in a league where you got return points, then boom, he had the big play, right? Let me see here if they have it. Yeah, he had the 104-yard kickoff return there, the only touchdown for Chicago. And, I can't imagine you play Patterson, but, in a league where you get return points, maybe he has value if Montgomery's out again, since nobody else touched the ball here. So we have Lamar Miller, who got called up from the practice squad, didn't get a carry, caught 2 passes for 6 yards. Hopefully you didn't play Lamar Miller. I like to play Ryan Nall, and that was before they had mentioned that Miller got brought up officially. So I do want to say that, when I picked Ryan Nall, it was just before that. But either way, extremely disappointing. Only carried the ball 1 time, 0 yards. He did have 1 catch for 18 yards, so he didn't get goosed. But good Lord, it was all Cordero Patterson, and their offense just was terrible. Again, I'm one of those guys where I liked what I saw out of Ryan Nall last week. Made 18 yards out of the 1 time he caught the ball this time. I don't know. I like when I see a guy making plays, I try to get him the ball. Call me simple, stupid, but, that's the way I look at it. All right, let's go to the outside here. Allen Robinson, 9 targets, caught 6 balls for 43 yards. Okay game for Allen Robinson. Could have been better, but, coming back from the injury and, 10 points, you'll take it. Anthony Miller was second on the team in targets with 7 targets, caught 2 balls for 28 yards, and nobody else was even, at all on the radar here. Darnell Mooney, the rookie, was only targeted twice, caught them both for 3 yards. Jimmy Graham gave you the goose. And just as I was saying, throw some respect on the man's name. There goes Jimmy Graham, doing what people thought he could do. 2 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards. Man, frustrating shit. Frustrating shit. All right, let's move on to some of these other Sunday games here. We're going to knock these out. We only got 5 of them. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time on the waiver wire. So, all right, let's go to Arizona with a great, great finish. Oh, my Buffalo Bills. It was a brutal one here. Wow, the emotions were running high at the end of that game. Buffalo goes to Arizona and loses 32-30 on a last-second, no time on the clock, Hail Mary to DeAndre Hopkins in triple coverage. We've all seen it 100 times at this point. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. No bias here. What a play and what a connection that there is between DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray at this point. What a great move for Arizona. So let's go over to Buffalo here where, hey, lots of players. We knew this game was a high over-under. We were expecting, points to be scored, which means fantasy points galore. We got him out of the passing game here. So Josh Allen, 284, 2-2 through the air, added 38 yards on the ground. So, very nice game for Josh Allen. He wasn't, amazing or anything like that, but a very nice game here for Josh Allen. He was very good. On the ground, we knew it was going to be tough on the ground. These guys just really can't be trusted at this point. I mentioned that I didn't really want to play either of them, and that's how it worked out, right? We didn't get enough work for either of these guys to be usable. 7 carries for Moss, 4 for Singletary. Neither one were particularly good with their carries. And then in the air, Singletary had 5 targets, right? You think, oh, well, he had 5 targets. At least you made up some ground there. No. Caught 1 ball for -5 yards. So that added a half a point in PPR leagues. Zach Moss caught 1 ball for -3 yards. Pretty solid there. 2 receptions for -8 yards on 7 targets. They're not good at throwing the ball to the running back position, which, at least they're good at doing the ball, doing everything else with the ball. Now, as I look down here, I kind of forgot in this game early on that the first touchdown was a Josh Allen touchdown reception. Isaiah McKenzie, the wide receiver, threw the ball on a trick play, and really nice play by Josh Allen to get to the end zone. I can't believe I forgot that in my excitement here during the episode here. Just let it get by me. So yeah, big game for Josh Allen. See where you want him on the week. The number 2 quarterback. So we did have, well, it will look like, let's see here. Can we get to week 10? I don't know why this happens. I always feel like I'm ready to go. I've got all my shit open, and then it doesn't work out that way. So yeah, Josh Allen, number 4 quarterback on the week with those 3 touchdowns. So very good game for fantasy for Josh Allen. Terrible game for the running backs. We're kind of expecting that. Cole Beasley, 13 targets, 11 receptions, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Might make him number 1 wide receiver on the week here. I believe he was last time I looked. Let's see here. Beasley number 1. Not standard. Let's do PPR. Yes, Cole Beasley, the number 1 PPR wide receiver on the week. So big ups to you, buddy. Let's see, where was Stephon Diggs? The number 3 wide receiver. So we got all the points. Like I said, all the points you needed in this game all came to fruition here. All right. So Diggs, 10 for 93 and a touchdown on 11 targets. John Brown, still very usable here. 6 catches, 72 yards on 8 targets. It wasn't the great game you wanted. I think he also not re-aggravated, actually. I think it's the other ankle that's hurt now. So we'll wait to see. But Cole Beasley continues to be, a guy that you kind of want to play it week in and week out, and then he bites you a little bit and comes back and has a huge week, just like he did this week. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just a matchup thing. We'll see. If John Brown is out for another week or 2, definitely playing Cole Beasley next week. Let's go over to Arizona. I hope I can snap back into it here. Kyler Murray, 245 yards with a touchdown and a pick, but added 2 touchdowns with 61 yards on the ground, 11 carries. So, the dual threat, he is this year's Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar, unfortunately, not having a great year. Kyler Murray, you did not get him at the same value that you got Lamar Jackson last year. But either way, if you got Kyler Murray in that 6th or 7th round range, he is paying off big time right now. He was, I believe, the number 2 quarterback on the week, just behind Tom Brady. So, huge game for Kyler Murray. Kenyon Drake, this is crazy. Weren't sure if he was going to play. He goes out there, 16 carries for 100 yards. Looks as good as he has all year long. Caught his only target for 9 yards, but 16 for 100. This was kind of out of nowhere. Chase Edmonds, 8 carries for 56. So they were both very effective. But to see Kenyon Drake double the amount of carries that Chase Edmonds had, I thought was very, very interesting is the word, I guess. 3 targets for Chase Edmonds, three receptions for 21 yards. And I don't know what to do with Kenyon Drake next week. I think they have the Thursday night football game. So we'll have to see if he practices in full on Tuesday and or Wednesday. But I think Kenyon Drake is back in your lineup. Chase Edmonds goes back to that flex territory, and now you're worried about it. So, interesting development there in Arizona. Kenyon Drake looked, I think, as good as he did all year long, though. So, I don't know. I got a league where I can use him, but if I play him next week and he screws me, I'm going to be fucking pissed, man. All right, DeAndre Hopkins, 12 targets, 7 receptions for 127 yards, including 1 43-yard Hail Mary at the end of the game. What can you say about the guy? He just out-jumped half of the freaking team. And it wasn't even close. Their hands were like at the bottom of his wrists. It really wasn't close. Great game for DeAndre Hopkins, showing why he is probably the best wide receiver in football. Christian Kirk, 6 targets, caught 4 balls for 27 yards. Disappointing game for Christian Kirk. At least you got the targets and some points. But yeah, that one was ugly. Larry Fitzgerald was targeted 5 times, did nothing with him. Dan Arnold caught 4 of his, he only had 4 targets. Caught a ball for 34 yards. Not a bad game. You know, there was a little bit of chatter about him in the offseason. He had a couple of good games to end the year last year. And then kind of didn't do anything to start the season. All of a sudden, he's coming up a little bit. He's had a couple of decent games. You know, he's still off the radar, but, well, I guess he's not off the radar. I'm talking about him, right? So he's on the radar, but he's just a blip on the radar right now. All right. Here we go. Here we've got the Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams, and the Seahawks just were bottled up pretty much all game long. Not much they could do about it. It was pretty brutal here, right? Russell Wilson here, 3 more turnovers, 248 yards through the air, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a lost fumble. Man, couple of rough weeks in a row for Russell Wilson here, and he's Ruffle Wilson right now. But you know, still going to trust him obviously going forward to get things right this Thursday. But you got to be a little bit concerned. He did add 60 yards on the ground, so at least a few more points there. But it was a bad week for Russ. The rushing game, nobody really knew exactly what to expect. I thought you'd have a little more Travis Homer. You had Alex Collins revived from the dead, 11 carries, 43 yards, and a touchdown. He was targeted twice, caught 1 for 4 yards. You know, DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, both got some work, but not really carries. Dallas had 2 carries for 8 yards. He also caught 2 passes for 23 yards. You had Travis Homer catching 3 passes for 19 yards. And then we have this early game. Who knows what's going to happen here? I mean, Carson, Hyde, both could come back. Neither one could come back. It's pretty brutal right now thinking about the Seattle Seahawks running back game. If Carson's back, I'm playing him. If Carson is not playing, I'm not playing any other Seahawk. But we'll go over that on Thursday when we dive into that game just a little bit more. All right. Receivers, obviously, were disappointing in this game with the tough game for Russell Wilson. Tyler Lockett led the way with 9 targets, caught 5 balls for 66 yards. You do need to monitor here. He's got a little bit of an injury. He's a day-to-day, as Pete Carroll says. I do think in an extremely important divisional game on Thursday that if he's close, if he's pretty close to 100%, he's going to go. He's going to be out there. You had 4 targets each for Freddie Swain, DK Metcalf, and then also Greg Olsen as far as the team leaders here. DK Metcalf, very disappointing. 2 catches for 28 yards. He was bottled up all game long by Jalen Ramsey. He's going to get Patrick Peterson on Thursday. If Lockett is healthy, it might be a Lockett game. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit more in the waiver wires here, but David Moore, who only had 3 targets in this game, caught 2 balls for 16 yards, is somebody that might be on my radar if we get bad news about Tyler Lockett. So, let's go over to LA here, Jared Goff. Jared Goff, unfortunately, had a very good football game, right? But he just could not get the passing touchdowns. 302 yards through the air. No touchdowns, no interceptions. So if you played Goff, unfortunately, it didn't work out. He was a good play, and he did play well. But you didn't get the points because you had 2 rushing touchdowns from Malcolm Brown on his 6 carries, 33 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Darrell Henderson ran the ball 7 times for 28 yards and had that 3rd touchdown. Cam Akers had the most carries, 10 for 38. But he did not get in the end zone. And this is the worst nightmare for anybody that owns Rams running backs. This basically even split of carries is brutal. You got touchdowns this week, so if you played anybody, if you played Malcolm Brown, I doubt it, you were fine. If you played Darrell Henderson, which a lot of people I'm sure did, they had to, you were fine because you got the touchdown there. Not a lot of work on the outside for these guys. Henderson caught 1 pass for 5 yards. Brown caught 2 for 18, and that was it. Josh Reynolds was the wide receiver to own in this game, believe it or not. 10 targets, caught 8 balls for 94 yards. Nice game for Josh Reynolds. I mean, it's at the expense of your other Rams receivers, which sucks. But, Reynolds looks good here. Cooper Kupp, second on the team in targets with 7, caught 5 balls for 50 yards. What are you going to say? 10 points, you take them and you move on. Robert Woods, was not good in this game. He's targeted 6 times, caught 5 balls for 33 yards, had his one little rush for 3 yards. But the way they use Robert Woods is frustrating. I mean, 6.6 yards per average. I know he's good at making people miss and catching those wide receiver screens, those little bubble screens, and making something out of them. But I don't know, man. Give him something else. I mean, you saw Josh Reynolds, how good he was here. Why is that not Robert Woods? Why? I don't understand. Maybe somebody out there can help me understand here. Tyler Higbee, 6 targets, caught 3 balls for 60 yards. A couple of nice plays there, including a 39-yard catch and run. And, I don't know, Tyler Higbee, man. I mean, Everett only was targeted 3 times, so, twice the amount of targets. He's a risky play every week just because you don't know what the split's going to be. He wasn't that good this week, obviously. 3 for 60 gets you into the top 12, probably. Let's see, tight end 12. Well, wait, that's not PPR. Hold on. Oh, Lord. Gosh, I suck. All right, number 10. Yeah, that sounds right. 9 points, the number 10 tight end on the week. That's where we are with tight ends, people. Pretty brutal. All right, crazy game there. The Rams move to 6-3. Seahawks fall to 6-3. The Cardinals are 6-3. Whew. Best division in football, man. But cannibalizing each other a little bit. So, yeah. All right. Where are we going next here? How many games did we have today? Oh, we already did that one. All right. So, that makes more sense. How are we doing on time? I'm yapping a lot, I feel like. All right. San Francisco 49ers travel to New Orleans. Definitely, shorthanded the Niners, struggling with injuries. It's been a rough go for them, and the Saints take care of business at home, 27-13. As I mentioned earlier, they lose Drew Brees for an unknown amount of time, but absolutely probably at least a couple or a few weeks, you assume, at least. So we'll talk about Jameis Winston here shortly, but let's start with the Niners. Nick Mullins, 247, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Not a great game for Nick Mullins. Had a hard time getting the ball down the field. Any semblance of a rushing game would have helped them. Now, Jerick McKinnon owners, if you would have told me as a Jerick McKinnon owner and player, I played this guy, that he was going to touch the ball 18 times, actually, he had 3 targets, so 21 opportunities. If you told me Jerick McKinnon will have 21 opportunities to make a play in this game, I would have told you, absolutely, you're playing Jerick McKinnon. He probably had a huge game, right? Because, these Niners running backs, that's what they do, right? Sometimes they only get 8, 10, 11 touches, and they have these big games. It's rare for one of them to get this many opportunities. Carried the ball 18 times for 33 fucking yards, 1.8 yards per carry. 1 reception, 13 yards. Holy shit, it was brutal. I mean, he was the only one to play. I mean, JaMychal Hasty, unfortunately, is injured. He's going to miss some time. We'll see what happens with San Francisco's rushing game. I do expect both Tevin Coleman and possibly Raheem Mostert back this week. So, yeah, I think they have some time. They might be on a bye anyway. I'm not even sure. Who's on a bye here? Yeah, San Francisco's on a bye, so you don't have to worry about it this week anyway. And then I'll expect their running backs back after that. But brutal game for San Francisco running backs, specifically Jerick McKinnon. Now, let's go to the outside here. Brandon Ayuk. Very nice game. I told you wanted to play Ayuk. 14 targets. Caught 7 balls for 75 yards and a touchdown. Really nice game for Brandon Ayuk, and you see his usage there. The wide receiver 15 in PPR this week. And, the usage is there. The targets are there, 14. We said last week, Richie James had that monster game, but a lot of that game plan was meant for Brandon Ayuk, and then here you go. Now, Richie James was targeted 5 times, so still involved, but caught 3 balls for 26 yards. Kendrick Bourne caught 4 balls for 26 yards. again, some of this is about after the bye week. So I do expect Deebo Samuel to be back. And I think that makes, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel will be the guys you can play. And we'll have to go into that a little bit more in the preview show when we have more information. Jordan Reed, hey, maybe he was just knocking the rust off that first week, but he was targeted 6 times. He caught 5 balls for 62 yards, and that makes him the tight end 5 on the week. So I missed on Jordan Reed. I said you don't want to play him. I'm still not playing him. I don't care. I'm not playing him. Just not doing it to myself. All right, let's talk about these Saints. And you know what? Alvin Kamara was the only Saint that really did it for you in this game. You did not get what you needed out of anybody else. And I really don't know what to expect going forward here. Breeze had 76 yards and a touchdown through the air before he left. And it wasn't that early in the game. He only attempted 13 passes, so there was that. It's kind of a weird game. Latavius Murray was the carry leader, 9 carries for 57 yards. Taysom Hill ran the ball 8 times for 45 yards, and we'll have to see what designation he has in your league. But if he is a tight end in your league, he is going to be a big, big play for a lot of people coming up. Just the amount of times he'll touch the ball, he'll throw it, he'll run it, he'll catch it at least a couple times. There's chances to make plays coming up here for Taysom Hill. So, yeah, he's big on the waiver wire here as well. Excuse me. All right. Alvin Kamara had a great game. Ran the ball 8 times for 15 yards. How you like them apples? 2 touchdowns on the ground. But you know that's not where Alvin Kamara makes his money. Targeted 8 times. Caught the ball 7 times for 83 more yards and a touchdown. This guy is a top wide receiver without what he does on the ground. Almost week in and week out, right? This is another 21.3 points in fantasy just as a wide receiver. In PPR, that's fucking crazy. And then he gives you the work on the ground. So, Alvin Kamara continues to be an absolute beast. And I'm going up against him in one league next week. I'm not looking forward to. Michael Thomas, second on the team in targets to Alvin Kamara's 8. He had 7 targets, caught 2 passes for 27 yards. Now, I want to bring this up just because, the last couple of years, the connection between Breeze and Thomas has not only been historic, statistically in volume, but in efficiency. I mean, these guys sometimes go 3 or 4 games without 5, missed connections, and that's with 10 targets a game. I mean, really though, it's wild. They're just out of sync right now. 2 for 27, Michael Thomas owners. First you wait all year to get him back, and now you're just not getting the points you need. Fucking brutal, man. Especially when he was the safe pick, right, in the first round. Remember, once you got to like 6, 7, 8. You're like, I don't want to take a shot on one of these running backs. I'm just going to go with the safe pick, right? Michael Thomas. So much for that shit. Deontay Harris, 4 targets, caught them all for 24 yards, but obviously that doesn't do much. Emmanuel Sanders targeted once, 1 for 5 yards. I told you not to play Sanders. Jared Cook, I told you could play Jared Cook as a touchdown-dependent tight end. But he has a very high probability for a touchdown. Not in this game. Not with 2 targets. And you got the goose, bro. The goose. Jimmy Graham, Jared Cook, double goose at the tight end position. It was a really bad week for tight ends in a really bad year for tight ends. So it is what it is. All right here. Cincinnati Bengals went to Pittsburgh and got stomped out by the Steelers. Steelers moved to 9-0 still. Well, they've been the only undefeated team for a few weeks now. Still undefeated at 9-0. Cincinnati 2-6-1 and didn't stand much of a chance in this game. Roethlisberger looked great, but let's go over to the rookie here, Joe Burrow. I mentioned I didn't want to play Joe Burrow in this game. He was 21 of 40 for 213 with a touchdown and no picks. So actually, he was better than I expected. I thought there might be some turnovers in this game, and he did a really good job of taking care of the ball. You had some receiver turnovers, right? You had a couple of fumbles lost, but none, in my opinion, were the fault of Joe Burrow. So he played a little better than I thought he would. That being said, it was not a good game for Joe Burrow, and hopefully you didn't have him in your lineup. Not a good game for Giovanni Bernard. 8 carries for 30 yards. He did catch 4 of 7 targets for only 17 yards, though. If he gets another week, which I'm not sure he will, I'm going to keep playing him. But Samaje Perine, carried the ball 7 times, had 48 yards, looked much, much better. Also added a catch for 7 yards. Again, if Mixon's out again, we'll talk about it in the preview show. But I'd still be playing Bernard for one more week. And then on the outside, T. Higgins. T. Higgins is the man. 9 targets, caught 7 for 115 and a touchdown. Monster game for T. Higgins. Let's see where he was. He had to be, number 9 wide receiver on the week. And, like I said, right? Higgins, Boyd, Green. Higgins, Boyd, Green. It's exactly where it was again this week. Boyd with 8 targets, caught 6 for 41. And A.J. Green was a goose. There were some gooses out and about, man. 5 targets, caught none of them. That's brutal. So, let's move over to Pittsburgh where some points were scored. Big Ben, 333 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. The number 3 quarterback on the week. And hey, how many points has this guy scored against Cincinnati in his career? Shit. Probably a whole fucking lot. James Conner, another rough game. 13 carries, but only 36 yards, just really not making any holes for him. He caught both his targets for 12 yards, but very, very ugly game here. James Conner, is the number 1 running back here. It's not even close. Benny Snell only had 3 carries, but just not doing anything with them. Let's go to the outside here. Where we want to go with target leader. Let's go target leader. Juju Smith-Schuster, another really nice game for Juju. Was targeted 13 times, caught 9 passes for 77 yards, including a really nice touchdown grab there. Great game for Juju. Listen, he's creeping back up. He's not having monster games. You're not getting these 30-plus point games, but you're getting volume, getting some scores. You're getting what you need. You're nourished. You're getting nourished by Juju Smith-Schuster right now. Deontay Johnson, 11 targets, caught 6 balls for 116 and a touchdown. Big game for Deontay Johnson. Once again, double-digit targets. And then Claypool also hit double-digit targets with 10. Not the most efficient day, but 4 catches, 56 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Yes, all the Pittsburgh wide receivers were really good. Juju at 8, right? You had Claypool. Where are we at? I can't see. Deontay Johnson at 5, Juju at 8, Claypool at 12, 3 wide receiver ones on the week. Very nice. Eric Ebron had opportunities. Listen, 6 opportunities, only caught 2 balls for 38 yards. But even that, again, in tight ends, wasn't the worst. I don't even think he made the list. No, he didn't make the mock stars list for tight ends, and so those 5.8 points weren't like that brutal, and that's just crazy. Tight ends, man, it's so fucking bad right now. But Pittsburgh's passing game is humming along, and maybe the answer has finally been answered. What the fuck? Maybe the question has finally been answered of which Pittsburgh wide receivers you can play, and it's all of them right now. So there you go. That's revelatory stuff, isn't it? Yes. All right, last game, thankfully, put me out of my early morning misery here, man. Shit. All right, let's talk about the Sunday night game. This game, I couldn't even watch most of it. I was still in a angry, tilted haze from all day Sunday. And the New England Patriots, hey, take care of business at home, put down the Ravens. They win 23-17 in a game, where there wasn't that much offense, obviously, but, you got what you needed out of the very few guys that you probably played here. So Lamar, 249 through the air, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Played a little bit better on Sunday. 11 carries for 55 yards. Wasn't a great week compared to, a lot of the quarterbacks, but QB7, that's an improvement. You're happy with that. Gus Edwards led the way on the ground. 7 carries, 42 yards. caught one pass for 31 yards. So not a great game for any of these running backs. Nobody got into the end zone. The split was, way too even here. 5 carries for Dobbins, 5 carries for Ingram. Neither one were any good with their touches. So, I don't know, man. As long as all 3 are healthy, you're not playing any of these guys. That's just how it is. All right, let's go to the outside here. For wide receivers, Willie Snead led the way with targets, with 7 targets, caught 5 passes for 64 yards. Let's see here. 2 touchdowns for Willie Snead. It's... I don't know what to do here. He's got to pass the ball to somebody. Mark Andrews is getting his targets. Hollywood is getting some targets, but their connection is not there right now. So, 5 for 64 and 2 for Snead. Marquise Brown was targeted 6 times in this game, caught 2 balls for 14 yards. He is unplayable right now. I don't want to say droppable, but there's so many good wide receivers out there. He might be droppable, and that's brutal to say. Mark Andrews, 9 targets in this game, caught 7 balls for 61 yards. And while volume is not normally his game, you're just glad to see him, get back near the top of the tight end rankings. And he was tied for the number 1 spot with Rob Gronkowski with 13.1 fantasy points. Ladies and gentlemen, tight ends 2020. All right, let's go over to New England real quick. 118 yards through the air, only 17 attempts for Cam Newton, 1 touchdown. Added another rushing touchdown. It's getting pretty crazy here with the Cam Newton rushing touchdowns. If you're in a 4-point passing touchdown league, where of course it's 6 points for rushing touchdowns, Cam Newton's value is, a good bit higher than some other quarterbacks at this point. Pretty crazy stuff. Damian Harris, 22 carries for 121 yards. Is Bill Belichick ready to have a bell cow running back? This is crazy. Now, I hate that he gets no targets, right? I mean, he threw the ball 17 times. I get it. James White, 2 targets. There were no targets Burkhead had 5. So, I mean, there's still 7 running back targets out of 17 targets overall. Holy shit. And none of them to Damian Harris. Now, so if you're in a standard league, Damian Harris, lots of value right now, but not so much in a PPR league because 12 points, while it's a great football game, that may or may not really do it for you for your fantasy league. But Damian Harris continues to be someone whose arrow is trending upward. Jacoby Myers, caught 5 of his 7 targets for 59 yards. If you played Myers kind of chasing the points, you weren't that upset. I mean, just about 11 points is what you can expect out of your wide receiver 4, or your flex play. It's okay. It's okay. And there were no other usable guys here. I mean, Rex Burkhead got both touchdowns through the air, but that's like the anomaly, right? He only had 5 targets, caught 4 balls for 35 yards. I mean, I don't want to say the anomaly. Obviously, when they're down there and it's a passing, they're thinking about passing the ball, they have Burkhead in the game. But I'm still not ready to play Rex Burkhead. I just can't do it. There's like a mental hurdle. I don't know. I just can't do it. So, all right. That's all the games from Sunday. Thank God. We still have the waivers to go here. We got about 10 minutes or so to get these waivers in. All right. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to start with some of the guys that didn't make my top 5 waiver wire pickups for the week. And then we'll roll into the top 5 here. Now, there's lots. As I've already mentioned in this show, there's lots of really good wide receivers out there that are available that on any given week can score a lot of points. And for that reason, wide receivers really don't make my top 5 list a lot. And this week you have 4 running backs with 1 wide receiver on the top 5 list. But we are going to talk about some other players here that didn't make the top 5, and then we'll roll into the top 5. At quarterback, the only guy I want to bring up at quarterback is Jameis Winston. So, here's the deal. We don't know how long Breeze is going to be out. And we don't know how Winston's going to look in this offense and how they're going to use Taysom Hill. But I do know they're playing the Falcons this week, a team that Winston is very familiar with from his time in Tampa Bay. And you might be looking for someone to replace Breeze if you're the Breeze owner. Josh Allen's on a bye. The rest of the bye week teams don't really affect quarterbacks so much, but matchups do. Ryan Tannehill at Baltimore. Deshaun Watson playing against the Patriots. Aaron Rodgers at Indianapolis. You may have concerns about these matchups. It's possible you have concerns about these matchups. And if you want to roll the dice, you may be looking at Jameis Winston. Now, because he's the only quarterback I think of note, you may need to grab him on the waiver wire. So if you don't have other needs and you're thinking about, maybe playing a quarterback, then definitely look at Jameis Winston. We'll see. He's going to be tossing the ball around, right? That's what he does. So we'll see. All right, let's talk about tight ends quick because, again, there's not really going to be any of these that you're worried about picking up. Now, Irv Smith was out this week for Minnesota. Kyle Rudolph was very playable, right? He was good. He was a good tight end. If you need a tight end for some reason, you really need a tight end, and Irv Smith is going to be out, like we knew Irv Smith was out, I would play Kyle Rudolph next week. Sure, I'm okay with that. But that's not a waiver wire priority. I just wanted to bring him up. And then also as tight end, Taysom Hill. Check your league. I forgot to look before the show. I really should have, to see on the different formats what Taysom Hill is listed as. If he's listed as a quarterback, can't play him as your quarterback. I mean, there's too many points left on the table. If he's a tight end, holy shit, Taysom Hill could be a smash play while Drew Brees is out. Who knows how many snaps he's going to get running the option. Like I said, he'll throw the ball a little bit. He'll run the ball a good little chunk, and then he might also catch a couple of passes. I don't know. Taysom Hill could be a smash play. He doesn't make my top 5, but look at it. If he's a tight end specifically, I think he's absolutely worth the play with how bad tight ends are. Quarterback, you can't do it. All right. Let's talk about some of these other wide receivers that didn't make my top 5 list and how much they're owned and how things look for them. So, I would say that Jalen Reagor is probably on the top of my list of guys. He's a 26% ownership in Yahoo leagues the last couple of weeks. He had 6 targets, then he had 7 this week. He's got matchups at Cleveland and then versus Seattle in his next 2 games. So I really like the matchups there. Like how involved he was in the offense. Jeffrey was back, only had 1 target. Sanders was involved. I mean, it looked like they were mostly healthy, right? They had 2 healthy tight ends on the field, and Jalen Reagor was still very involved. I don't know if I'm not saying he's a must start by any means, but definitely a guy you can roster and put into your bench there. So I do want to bring up both Packers wide receivers. So Marcus Valdes-Scantling, only 17% owned. He's had 2 monster games back to back. But we know that Allen Lazard will most likely be back this week. I think he was, more or less a game time decision this last week. So, if he comes back, we don't know how healthy he'll be in his first week or how used he'll be. But it definitely puts a little damper on MVS. If I knew Lazard was going to be out, for more weeks, MVS might be a must pick up guy. But for now, he's just someone that you could pick up and stash. Allen Lazard, same thing. He's only 42% owned, so a lot of people have had to drop him. And if he's out there, you can definitely grab him. Sammy Watkins, same thing. We're not exactly sure that he's going to play this week, so I wouldn't want to use a waiver wire priority on him. But he's 38% owned. He's got 5 games this year with 7 or more targets in 3 of them. So, if you're telling me you're going to get 7, Patrick Mahomes targets, I think Mahomes will be excited to have another weapon back. I'd be willing to play Watkins as a wide receiver 4/flex play if he's back this week. Jakeem Grant had a nice game for Miami. We know Preston Williams is out. Caught 4 balls for 43 yards and a touchdown. And if you're in a league where you also get return yards, he's their punt return guy. And, those points add up. 4, 5, 6 extra points. And now you're getting, more opportunities as a receiver. That can be very valuable. Check that out. If you get points for return yards, definitely give him a look. take him a look. Give him a look. Tim Patrick also, last guy I want to bring up for the wide receivers before we move on. Denver Broncos, you know, he's not getting a ton of volume, but he's very consistent. Has a pretty high floor, kind of has his position set in that offense. Even though Jerry Jeudy and the other rookie, KJ Hamler, are both trending upwards, I still like Tim Patrick as a specifically, medium to high floor, low ceiling kind of a play. Just got to note that's the caveat there. All right. One other person I want to bring up, and it depends on your roster situation, is Wayne Gallman. So Wayne Gallman's on a bye this week, right? And he is 50% owned exactly, so he may or may not be owned in your league, right? It's a coin flip. But if he was not on a bye week right now, at 50% ownership, he would be my number one waiver wire pickup guy for the week. Not knowing what's going on with Devontae Freeman and just seeing how well he's played, I would really like him. But obviously, considering the fact that he has a bye this week, unless you don't need somebody and you're just going to add someone to your bench just because, maybe just because of an injury, someone you can get rid of, it's that time of year where maybe you don't have to hold on to two quarterbacks or two tight ends anymore, as we get near the end here. So you could be looking at it that way, but I might be looking at Wayne Gallman if it were not for the bye week. So, all right, let's finish it up today with our top 5 waiver wire picks, all right? Here we go with our top 5. Number 5, Nyheim Hines, running back for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, 42% ownership. They're playing against Green Bay this week, and you can run against Green Bay. The question mark here is the usage, right? They still have Jonathan Taylor. They still have Jordan Wilkins. Was this game just an anomaly in the fact that he got more carries than everybody also? Or will that be, kind of a trend? Not that he'll get the most carries, but that he'll get more work. We've seen this happen already this year. He's had big games, then he's disappeared. So if you're going to throw him in for a 1-week play and spend a waiver wire pick on him, maybe for the second time this year, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. But he seems to be getting more steadily involved, and I'm okay with it. Number 4, wide receiver from the same team, Michael Pittman, Indianapolis Colts wide receiver. Now, both of the cornerbacks for Green Bay were out this week, Kevin King and Jair Alexander. We don't know how healthy they'll be for next week, and Jacksonville wasn't able to take, that much advantage of it. I think if Jair Alexander and or Kevin King are out next week, that Phillip Rivers will have a decent game here. I like that they're playing at home. It's not at Green Bay. So, that adds to the viability of the passing game for me with Phillip Rivers. And, Michael Pittman looks really, really good. He's getting the usage. He had 7 targets, 7+ targets in the last couple of weeks. And the schedule is pretty good going forward. It's not just Green Bay. Then he's got Tennessee again. And then he's got at Houston. So I love this little triplet of games heading towards the playoffs for Michael Pittman. Number 3, LaMichael P. Ryan. I know. Now, I've been burned already by P. Ryan this year and fucking Adam Gase. So I get it. I get all those arguments, right? But, ESPN's Rich Cimini did come out and, say that the Jets are planning to make LaMichael P. Ryan their workhorse back for the rest of the year. They want to see what they've got in this kid. And that's what I've been saying for like fucking 5 weeks now, right? I love Frank Gore. But you got to start seeing what you got in these young guys. See if you have trade bait. See if you need to draft another running back early. Maybe you hit something like the Jaguars did with James Robinson. You never really know. So I think that P. Ryan, because the expectation is number 1 running back usage, even in a very bad offense, I'm willing to make him a waiver wire priority. Not necessarily a must start this week, but a waiver wire priority. Number 2, Kalen Ballage. I know this is 2020 in a nutshell. That Michael P. Ryan and Kalen Ballage are right up here near the top of the list for waiver wire pickups. But Ballage has looked really, really freaking good since joining the Chargers and getting called up. It could just be like maybe it was the lasting Adam Gase effect in Miami that Balaj couldn't get it going. Either way, call it what you want to. He's a bruising back. He runs downfield, and I love the way he just beats up opposing front lines. And even when Austin Eckler gets back, which will not be in the next week or two, in my opinion, I think Balaj will have a spot going into your fantasy playoffs. But for the next couple of weeks, I think he has every chance to be really good. They get the Jets this week. They're not as easy of a matchup as people think, but I love Balaj this week. Go ahead, make him a priority. And number one waiver wire priority on the week, Salvon Ahmed from the Miami Dolphins. 8% owned. That's all. You can go out there and get him. Make him your number one. He's got a great schedule coming up at Denver, at the Jets, versus Cincinnati to finish up this year. With Patrick Laird on IR, they just released Jordan Howard. Listen, with Patrick Laird, they've kind of shown if they like somebody and they're playing well, they're going to keep going with them. Ahmed, ran the ball really, really well this week. Got almost all the work. I think he's going to get a good workload here against the Broncos this week. And then the Jets and Cincy. Good playoff schedule as well. By then, who knows? Maybe it'll be Laird. We don't know. But right now, especially with running backs, man, you're playing it week to week. And I think he could be a big, big play for week 11. So go out there, put in your claim for Salvon Ahmed. All right, that's going to do it for us. Taking it to the limit here with time. But we appreciate your time. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, and share. If you're listening to the podcast anywhere, hey, subscribe to them there. We appreciate it. Whatever you do, having a lot of fun here. Getting ready for week 11. We'll be back here later in the week to get you ready for week 11 with our preview shows, our starters, our sleepers for the week, all that good stuff coming up later.